Hey, Coach, how are you?
Hey,
Hey,
Tom.
we've been trying to crack Nick Chubb for a couple years here. He's about as even keeled as they come. Has that been your interactions with him as well?
He's a man of few words, even less than me.
Donovan PeoplesJones was just saying that he's an inspiration when you see a guy like that who's essentially a star in this league, work as hard as he does. Do you find that that does have a trickle down effect within the team?
Absolutely. I love how Nick Chubb works. You see him on the grass, you see him in the classroom. He's all ball all the time. He's a good person. He's a solid citizen. He's a great teammate. So pleased with what Nick means to this team.
Nate Ulrich.
Kevin, as far as tomorrow's practice at the stadium goes, I'm just wondering, because there are no preseason games, what kind of importance you put on that? Like, we're used to talking about the preseason, like, hey, can a guy, win a job, a guy fighting for a roster spot, win a job? Is that like what's at stake tomorrow night for some guys, or is that, would that be, exaggerating? How do you look at tomorrow's practice as it relates to your roster cut decisions on Saturday?
Yeah, the way we're looking at tomorrow, Nate, is it's a dress rehearsal in the stadium, and I mean that literally in terms of they're going to be in their uniforms. The coaches are going to be dressed in their game attire. We're going to put headsets on. The coaches will be up in the booth, and it's going to be a crisp, quick practice. So it's not going to be a scrimmage. It's not going to be something where we're going to play the young guys for an hour to see what we have, because the truth is this whole camp has been an evaluation of those young guys. They get evaluated in their individual period. They get evaluated in the classroom. So it's way more of a dress rehearsal. The guys need to go through what pregame warm-up looks like. Things like that is how we're viewing tomorrow's practice.
Fred Greetham, your line is open.
Hey, Coach, I know A.J. Green was a priority of you guys signing. Denzel Ward said he stood out to him. Can you evaluate or just talk about, how he's done this camp?
Yeah, Fred, he's done a nice job. He's got good size. He's taking to the techniques that Coach Woods and Coach Howard and Coach Lynch are teaching him. He's been very eager to learn, and I've been pleased with what he's been doing.
Zach Jackson, you're up.
Coach, after Minnesota, I think you guys were one of three across the league, ended up running the ball more than you threw it. If we'd asked you a week before the season, would you have said that was going to happen, or was that just circumstances?
Zach, sorry, can you repeat it? You were breaking up a little bit there.
All right. So last year in Minnesota, I think you were one of three teams league-wide that ran the ball more than you threw it. If we would have asked you before last season, would that be by design, or was that just kind of how the circumstances were?
I'd say a little bit of both, Zach. I think you try to play to the strength of your team, knowing that it's going to pivot every 4 or so weeks. So I think ultimately, just like here and just like I promise you the 31 other clubs, they're talking about what they do best, is my guess.
Scott Pett.
Hey, Coach, I got two quick ones. The one is, I'm following up on Zach, is do you see situations where you play Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt together in the backfield?
I would say we want to make sure we're multiple and versatile. Could I see a scenario like that? Sure. Could I see a scenario with, 4 tight ends and a receiver? I think you got to go into every game with the mindset of whatever personnel you think may cause some conflict to the defense, you do that. So I don't want to overstate it. And it's really also, it's hard to speculate right now, Scott, just not being in game plan mode just yet.
And then I've heard a couple people, D. Haslam and Denzel Ward a while ago, talk about the 4 H's that you've been doing. I don't think we've asked you about it. So, what's the genesis of that? Why do you do it?
So the genesis of it is my mindset in this virtual offseason in virtual training camp was, how do we come together while apart? And this idea of the 4 H's came from, I was on a call back in March with VCU men's basketball. One of their coaches I went to high school with, Jimmy Martelli, and we talked about a lot of things, and we talked about just that. So Jimmy brought up something that they had done, their coaching staff had done, and it was just a way to share with your team. And I just thought it would be helpful to do that in a virtual setting while guys aren't spending a ton of time in the locker room together. So that was kind of the genesis of it, and it's been unbelievable to hear some of the stories and what people have come from and where they're going.
Thanks.
Go to Daryl Ryder.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned how you've been evaluating as you've gone throughout this camp on a day-to-day basis. You know, from our perspective, it's kind of tough to really evaluate not having those preseason games and seeing what you're trying to accomplish as the preseason unfolds. So could you just, I don't know, provide a little color? What kind of team do you think you have at this point?
Well, I think a lot of that, Daryl, as you can imagine, we want to keep to ourselves. But I'll tell you this, this team works. There hasn't been one moment, one time out here on the practice field that this team has bucked at the thought of working. They've done everything we've asked them. They've pushed through when it's hot. They've pushed through injuries. So we're just trying to get a team that when we cut this thing down to 53, which is not going to be easy, but we want to get a team that we feel confident going into the season. But I'm not going to make many. I think I'm not going to make many bold proclamations or predictions about who we are.
Understanding you have today's session and then you've got tomorrow night. Just overall, though, do you feel like you accomplished what you set out to accomplish during this camp and this very odd preseason leading up?
Yeah, I do. I think the credit goes to the coaches, to our staff. We put together a plan. We adjusted. We adapted. When I can't tell you how many times we've changed the schedule on the players and the coaches, and again, it's been a resilient bunch. So I feel like we've done the things that we set out to do, and now we just got to go play football.
Mary Kay, your line's open.
Hey, Coach, I'm going to try to squeeze two quick ones in here. First of all, knowing Kirk Cousins the way that you do, did you find it unfortunate that he took undue heat for what he was trying to say as far as wearing a mask? Just curious about that.
I don't really want to comment on that, Mary Kay. I'll leave that to the Vikings.
Okay. I figured that was going to be the case. But the second question is about Donovan PeoplesJones. I saw him make a lot of big plays in camp, and just wondering what you thought of the camp that he had, and did he make a pretty strong case for himself to get some playing time at receiver?
I think, Mary Kay, he's gotten better every day. He came out here, and I could tell you just his effort has grown immensely from day 1 to day 13, whatever it was. We're putting a lot on his plate. Coach O'Shea coaches those guys hard, and he hasn't backed down one bit. We've had him play multiple positions. He's a rookie. Has made and will make rookie mistakes like the rest of them, but I've been pretty pleased with how he's pushed through that.
Tony Grossi.
Okay, Kevin, every time you speak on the offense, you talk about versatility. It almost sounds like you have every formation known to man in your playbook. I wonder, how do you avoid spreading it too thin and giving them too much to worry about instead of concentrating on what they do best?
Yeah, that's a fair point, Tony. And what we try to do on the offensive side is it may look difficult to the defense, but it should be easy for the offense. So you mentioned formationally. There are some things that you can do, alignments, motions, shifts, that the goal is to confuse the defense and not the offense. And I think that's where our coaches have to be very mindful of that very point.
And as a follow-up, the weekly Treader question, earlier in the week, you said you're worried about what he does today and tomorrow and this week rather than next week. Has he done anything to push the needle?
Can I stick to the first answer? Yeah, honestly, Tony, it's just one of those, with any of the guys that are injured, we're just going to let them continue the rehab, and then when we get into game week next week, we'll determine what's best for him and the team.
All right, we'll go ahead and make this our last one. We'll go to Aditi Kinkabwala.
Hi. When we talked to Baker Mayfield this weekend, he was asked, I think maybe Mary Kay asked him, what's your biggest area of improvement this camp? And he actually said it was not on the field, that it's his leadership. I know you didn't know him before this year, but how would you describe the way he's taken the reins? What kind of a leader is he? What are his best assets as a leader, the way that you view them, despite how young he is?
Yeah, he does a nice job in the leadership department. I think as a quarterback, you're the leader, whether you want to be or not, in a lot of ways. but he's never shied away from that role. He encourages his teammates. He has a great dialogue with them out at the practice field. I think they know that he's got their back, and I think it's vice versa. But his style, to me, is very authentic.